In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto.
Question everything, trust nothing. It's your boy BlockchainCrusader, and we're back for another Magic Money Monday. We've got CVO and Bill Noble. How's it going, guys?
Hi, great to be here.
Awesome, dude. It's awesome always coming on with you guys, talking about some TA, right? The markets have been, kind of sideways, upside down kind of situations. Been all over the place. Anything but up, apparently. So, the Christmas rally is always a thing that, in the crypto markets, everybody's always talking about. So before we get into any of that, how are you guys feeling? How are you guys doing? Just trading? What are you guys doing? Anything wild, or are you guys just taking it easy?
So, well, for us, we were always trading this. So, this going into this week or last week, I suppose, for the FOMC meeting, we had a really, really big game plan ahead and pretty much played out to the T. I think I covered it even here on Monday last week, and then Thursday with Crypto Face here as well. So it'll be fun to kind of cover that. And just looking for the next trade, which I think we're kind of in the middle of right now. So,
yeah, I'm bottom hunting, right?
Bottom hunting, okay.
Yeah, bottom hunting. December 2017 was the top. December 2018 was the low. December last year, Bitcoin topped at like 58K. So they like to do these like mid-December extremes, and we'll talk more about it. But,
I agree.
Bottom fishing is an expensive sport, but I'm playing. So.
But if it pays off really well, right? Most people talk about how, the cycles work and, pretty much Bitcoin and crypto bottoms out about a year later after its all-time high. We've kind of been there already. It's already been a year since November, October of last year. So the bottom could be, a lot closer than we think. And, this also leads into Christmas, and then Christmas being the rally, right? I know CVO's prepared for the Christmas rally. I see the jingle bells behind him and his green screen, right? He's prepared for the
right
presents.
Looking for my bottom.
So, yeah, let's start getting into it, right? Let me do a quick little market overwatch just to show the people where the markets are right now. But it seems like everything's pretty much dumping right now, right? Everything is down. Let me do a quick little refresh here. Yeah, market cap is all the way at 793 billion. Bitcoin is down 2% just today. Look at this. Doge is down 9%, 20% in the last 7 days. Cardano's down 17% in the last 7 days, 5% today alone. Matic's down 5%. I'm waiting for Matic to personally go down to about at least 50 to 60 cents before I even start dollar cost averaging into it. But, we can possibly cover some of that later down the line. But yeah, everything's going down, guys. Everything's at least down 5% today, just today alone. And, going into Christmas and this Christmas rally, does this mean that Christmas is canceled? Did the Grinch cancel Christmas, right? What's going on here?
Christmas
Stocks.
Yeah. Any of you guys can take it first, right? What are you guys foreseeing for, the next week? Just Christmas time alone. Are people going to have a nice Christmas morning when they wake up, or are their portfolios going to be in the tank? Who wants to take it first?
Take it off, Bill.
I'll do it. Okay, I think you're going to get a wick for Christmas, right?
To the upside or to the downside?
No, to the downside. What they do is they're going to take it out, they're going to flush it out and bring it back, right? Markets love to do this at what I call like the Western holidays, right? Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas, Labor Day, Memorial Day. I don't know how many times I've seen it, right? Where they just love, you eat dinner, you're about to fall asleep, you look at your phone, and it's 20% in one direction or another. Only to be unwound after you buy or sell or do whatever you have to do because you're upset and you don't want to deal with it on a holiday. That's why it's so emotional, right? So you have low liquidity and a lack of desire to participate despite red ink or whatever. So I'm looking for that Christmas wick, right? The Binance FUD may come to a head, right? They're either going to blow up, or every day that goes by that they don't, I think, is constructive. So if Santa gives us a present, it's an end to the FUD.
Okay. So end to the fun, and maybe we can have some type of little rally. What are you thinking between now and Christmas, CVO?
So it's an interesting time, man. You know, Christmas week has been one that we've been really looking for. The gentleman in the chat here, T-Bone, he and I have almost had a running joke because we've had some Christmas bats, which are some harmonic patterns that potentially have some times wrapped up in this week. And we're here. We're going to be seeing how things unfold. We ran up to that $18,000 sweet spot last week, and the news, right? Like this is the biggest thing to me. Why? It's really good, I think, to have a pulse on everything. But like for me, it's just like we didn't even give it zero attention to FOMC being positive or however you want to look at it. Gave zero attention to on Monday. Actually, last week we came when we were on this show. SBF got arrested, right? And that was, supposedly the reason why the market's pumped and what have you. So walking into Wednesday, I mean, on fundamentals or on news alone, man, things look great. Why wouldn't we have just pushed back up to 20K? And here we are, right? So it's to me same. I got to agree with Bill in a sense that I think we'll get a little push up in the next possible day or two here, but we really got to get something going now. I mean, the recipe is there after we just kind of came down to these levels right here, but I don't see us going much higher, than maybe 17.5 in that region, and but then after that, potentially making a new low here, going into the end of the year. So we'll see how it goes.
So making a new low. So you're talking about heading back down. I know Bill kind of mentioned the wick to the lower side too. So talking about this new low, whether it's going to be a wick or it's going to be a bit of a longer stretch, what are you guys predicting this new low to be by the end of this year? And I guess we can start jumping into some charts with Bitcoin, and then obviously wherever Bitcoin goes, the altcoins will follow. So whoever wants to take that first?
I'll take a shot. My wick scenario is probably more modest, right? So this is the DeMark work for like 90-minute Bitcoin, right? And I'm hoping that this right here, this 9 bottom, in DeMark, you count a certain set of conditions. If you count them 13 times or 9 times, they're meaningful. A set of conditions would be like, no, the low is lower than the low 2 days ago, as an example. This guy was the first quant guy in in TA. So when you look at this, right, this could be a bottoming signal. All right. And then if you take that part out, all right, you're going to see that DeMark has an Elliott wave tool that this little recent down move, right? So I believe this was the post-Fed call, right, that my colleague had, right? And this was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5, the end of that down move was today when they puked it out and then it came back. So I'm thinking the worst case scenario in Bitcoin around Christmas is 15.9, right? In ETH, let me put it up here for ETH, right? It's very similar, right, with that 5-wave puke down. All right, so you might get a new low. I would prefer it if 1172 held. So those are just some numbers that I'm looking at.
What was the one for Ethereum you said?
1172 would be great because I think that's the 62 or 1180. Let me see if I can just switch chart programs. So, I mean, if you look at ETH, right, like on a 4-hour chart, it would be preferable because I'm kind of a 62% retracement guy. Just keeping it simple, right?
Yeah.
So the 62% retracement of the last leg up is 1180, right? So if it's above 1180, it's okay. If it's not, you're going to get that Christmas wick. I don't know, to either 1140 or 1070. I would vote for the more modest wick to just below 16K maybe. Wicks are unpredictable.
Very interesting. CVO, what do you think about that? What it is that you're seeing on your charts?
So to me, I feel like ETH is really selling the story, in my opinion, for more so the market. And then you kind of tie that into Bitcoin. We already have, like I said, I lean on Ethereum more anyways. Magic in the group usually covers Bitcoin, but I'm going to take a look at both. I was just curious to see, last couple of times here, Bill and I are levels were intertwinable there. So I was just curious on seeing what he was looking at too. ETH is really close for what I'm looking at. But let's start off with just kind of looking at Bitcoin, right? So I just shared this, I think. Okay. I just love the term puke in the lows. that's why I started laughing when you were saying that. So, just on a really basic level here, right? We were looking last week for a couple of reasons coming up to, at the time, this was an untapped monthly key level, right? So this is the average of price for last month. The market is efficient, tends to back test the mean, right? And the biggest thing we were looking for at this time, Bitcoin and ETH had the same setup for them. I'll cover that in a second. 18K was pretty much the level for Bitcoin. 1350 was the level for Ethereum. And what we were looking for was just this, right? This is called the SFP, right? So swing failure pattern. The push higher, basically you stop out everybody, anything that's trying to, or had a short in this region. Pretty much, not everybody's going to put their stop loss all the way back above here, especially if you're, trying to short in this region, you probably already got stopped out or what have you. But to effectively, stop out anyone and everyone for the most part that was in this range, basically from the November drop. That's exactly what we did, right? So we ran it up right into that FOMC meeting. So if we were looking at order flow and open interest at that time, you could see everybody piling in right here. You could see fresh longs coming in right at the highs. Just the amount of good news was, overwhelming. Like I said, there wasn't really any bad news. There necessarily wasn't any good news. There were like extreme good news, but it just wasn't like, hey, FTX or the next thing was coming down. We get this immediate drop. I kid you not, the Binance tweet that, they were having issues. I don't even know what it is, but I know that it was literally at this moment I saw somebody, breaking news, Binance, this or that, and you just can't make it up. You shot up. The move was back down, at least towards this region. We had an untapped daily right here at 16.8. You had your golden pocket, basically from your low to high, right in that region as well, which is pretty much actually where we are now. And we came down to this region over the weekend, right? So, or on the weekend, so Friday. And then today in our stream on Leading Crypto, we do a morning stream, 10 a.m. Eastern every day. Tune in for that if you're interested. But Max covered this today. He's our order flow and open interest specialist. He's over there in Dubai, covers the night shift for us basically. And he was looking at this and he's like, man, everybody coming in over the weekend, building up longs right here, right above the golden pocket. Not necessarily taking this low quite yet. It's, liquidity grab, however anybody wants to look at it. But essentially you come down, you take the low, just like we came up and we took the high before we ripped it down. Potentially at the moment, we have a setup here for a little bit of a move higher. So in the short term here, just kind of painting the picture here, right? What I'd be looking for going into the rest of this week is could just completely just puke from here, right? Just utilizing that term as much as possible. First area we really want to come back and live above is going to be the weekly open, which is about 16,733. At this time, we have a couple things to look at too, right? So now you got your previous week as well, right? So last week's range. There's some pretty distinct nodes on the way up, which pretty much line up with a couple of short-term targets here. But once again, kind of living back above that weekly open, that would put you back inside the range, back above the point of control. Pretty safe area to kind of consider looking up for a short-term move to the upside. Will we go back up in 18K and push forward? I don't necessarily know if that's the case quite yet, but we will see. One major area to me is going to be the untapped weekly at 17,215. After that, we do have the quarter two low. So once again, this is just the idea of, if we're going to get a push up in the short term here, these are two regions to really be paying attention for. We do have a golden pocket now coming in at right there at the quarter two low. So now this is from our current high to the current low, if that's the low, comes in right and lines up pretty well with that. One thing I want to point out is that everybody's going to be looking for that. So in my opinion, it's just something to be aware of. It would effectively come up and knock out this, small high up here. And it does have a lot of things that kind of line up with it. Even if you kind of back it up and look at the overall range here, right? You got the overall range. Basically, your value area high comes in right there as well. So potentially, coming up to that region. But for me, it's the untapped weekly that I got my eyes on for the time being. Throwing on last week, we were looking at the high time frame regression tool, right? Which actually, I'll throw that on right here. We were looking at this as we line this up with the monthly key level. We came into the high of our high time frame regression as well. A couple other confluences. Took the high. I mean, this was a beautiful recipe right here. Another little indication that we might see a little upside is that we came back down. Right now, we're testing the center of that. Anybody that's an RSI junkie, I'm just literally just running through some things as quick as possible here. But if you're an RSI junkie, you got 4-hour time frame. You're making potentially right here, the small area. Really, if it's on the 1 hour, but I don't really give too much credence to that because that could just kind of continue on. But you do have a lower high coming in, higher low. Lower low coming in, higher low coming in. That whole deal. Everything else that I just kind of went over, though, would be more so what I'd be kind of looking for more than anything than just kind of paying attention with the RSI. But push up into this region and then really paying attention to see how we do at these areas. The Q2 low really being a very influential area. This was that the June low back in obviously June. So realistically, coming up to these regions and then making our way down from there is definitely on the table for Bitcoin. And the reason I think that the most is once again looking at Ethereum. So Ethereum, unlike Bitcoin, right? Ethereum looks a lot different than Bitcoin. We never took the low from June still, right? So that's one thing that everybody really focuses a little bit on. As far as, is Bitcoin bottomed and things of that nature, potentially, I suppose. But the thing for me is that, there's some really key levels down here for ETH that I think that we might make our way down to. One of which does really line up pretty well with Bill a second ago, right? He was looking at like 1,075 in that region, which pretty much puts us right back down to these levels right here. These were the lows that we came down to. Basically on Thanksgiving, beginning of the month. Very similar though, however, to Bitcoin is that there is untapped, however you want to put it. This is going to stop out everybody in the best way to put it. Coming down to these regions, stopping everybody out. The more important area to me at this point is actually over here, from low to high, from the time that we ran it up from that June. This has literally been in play for so long at this point. But from the June low to the August high, you got the 886, which comes in right at this wick. There's an untapped daily level down here that I've been covering literally for months at this point, almost like a broken record. The untapped daily is more so an area and not necessarily like I would just assume that if we came down to here, you could just preset a 20x long or even anything, even any long at all, right? Like I do imagine we come down in this region, we'll probably blow through it just a bit. Reason being is once again, come down and taking these lows right here. Effectively, you would stop out almost, everybody in the market, right? Like once again, for the last 6 or 7 months here. The low here, however, is very interesting. So it's one of those things where, when we come down, if we come down in these regions, you really want to pay attention. You really want to see how things kind of transpire, because if we do just blow right through it and start taking the low from here and living below it, there's inefficiencies in the market called single prints right below here. And then if we, start living 15-minute candles, 4-hour, things like that, it's a quick ride below. But to me, I do think that more so it's going to be a move down in this region and then potentially a really nice recovery going into the next year. Not to say that that's going to be all-time highs or anything like that, but it's just short-term swing move, for a few months where we might see, possibly back up towards, potentially even like up to $2,000, right? So that is kind of something I'm looking at. Zooming in a little bit here for ETH, kind of unravel this a little bit more. So the same thing with Ethereum and Bitcoin. When we were looking at this last week, we had an untapped monthly key level that came into play right here. We had our high time frame, regression that was lining up with this as well. We had our overall range high coming in here. One thing I didn't get out of ETH that I was really wanting was this high over here, right? So take a look at what it was, at least on Bybit, potentially on another exchange it did. But I was looking for very much the same thing that happened with Bitcoin, right? Where you shoot up, essentially you stop out everybody, then the move gets underway. But we did just come up and basically just double tap that monthly, and obviously Bitcoin started making its move. So it was underway. Where we were looking at from there, right, when on the way back down, we had a daily level down here at 1167, right? So I'll even just line that up. Essentially, we were just looking for the golden pocket from this whole area as well. So it's similar with Bitcoin. So you can see how that lines up. I'll zoom it in here. And all right, a little crowded. I think I already have it on there. Either way, we had it in this region right here, this daily level. So 1167. This was the area that we we're paying attention for from that high, just for a short-term move down. At this point, I would imagine, now that we're living back above it as well, the daily level was the area we wanted to see reclaimed on the short term. And from here, I would imagine we possibly take it back up. You know, that aligns well with Bitcoin getting a small push up as well, short term here. Once again, you got some bullish divergences popping up on like 1 hour time frames, and, you know, obviously anything lower where you have a new lower low come in, and then you got the higher low on your RSI. I'm not going to pull it up, but it's there. And then, yeah, same thing, really be paying attention to see the reaction at potentially, you know, 1230. You know, if we clear that, then I would imagine maybe we come back up and revisit this region. We got a golden pocket up here. So that would be coinciding with Bitcoin at like that Q2 low, potentially going back up to like 17.5. But once again, Ethereum and Bitcoin almost align super well with the areas at play right now. So 1230 for me. So once again, the idea would be potentially a move to the upside. If we get rejected right here, then I believe that the rest of the Christmas bat, you know, gets fulfilled. So that's been an idea that I've tossed around for a little bit. I'll bring it up here in a second, but realistically, it just kind of runs the idea that we run it up to somewhere in this region. If you get the rejection, potentially coming lower, finally meeting some of these lower targets. This target really is more, like I said, of an area. You know, it's not to say like 1038 would be where we stop. Potentially we get something just like this, where this was an untapped daily as well, and you just blew right through it, right? So a couple percent. So it's really something where it blows through, comes back up. You really want to see that level reclaimed as far as like how that would look. And then just kind of taking a look at the overall idea here. Right, so zooming it out. So once again, I put a lot of emphasis on this untapped daily. It could not happen. We could very well just, you know, reverse from here. Maybe we don't make it down to these regions at all. Potentially just come down to how Bill was saying, you know, 1075, and really just, you know, triple bottom out of this region. I just have to imagine that, you know, to come down this low, which actually taking a look at one more area that I've been paying attention for quite a bit, that untapped weekly, that 1230 region, right? This quarterly point of control that's been basically, you can see the clear support and resistance across the whole year so far, living below it, right? And it's basically, you know, we're looking down towards these levels here. So 1230 would basically put us in a nice little, you know, bearish retest, essentially, right? A back test, however you want to look at that. But if you come up and you live below that quarterly POC, once again, that daily is just, it's just staring us in the face at this point. And then once again, the idea of the Christmas bat coming to fruition is a harmonic idea, which is just that, just an idea until it, you know, fulfills. It's just like looking at an inverse head and shoulders, right? You can't necessarily play it off until it gets there. But this has been super well respected. And this comes down essentially, potentially lines up for December 21st to the 25th. We ran it up and hit our pitchfork median right here, which aligned well with our monthly key level. And at this point, you know, I'm just anticipating that we come down and meet these regions right here. From there, however, like I said, if this is what plays out and, you know, we get to a region where we start holding and bounce territory is met, you know, a move back up towards, you know, at least 1400 is, you know, on the books. So swing opportunities are ahead is, I guess, all I'm trying to say. So potentially a move up to, you know, 1230, 17.2, 17.5 for Bitcoin. And then maybe we get that Christmas wick like Bill was talking. That's the idea at hand, I guess, in the short term from me.
Dude, that's great.
I can do more on the Christmas wick.
Christmas wick.
So I'm breaking this down like things happen in threes. So this is ETH weekly. This dotted line comes from something kind of cool in DeMark called absolute retracement. It's like a Fibonacci tool within the DeMark universe. So let's just take it that it's an interesting support point, and it's been validated by the market because, you know, here was the Celsius attack on that number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. See how this week right here, where you like wicked all the way down and came back? Okay. My guess is in order to have a meaningful reversal, that's what needs to happen. So just keeping it simple, you had a top up here in August. You had an ugly looking top in September, and then you had an ugly looking top in October. So 3 tops. Then you had Celsius as a bottom over here. Then, you know, you had the FTX debacle, and then there's one final debacle to be had, right? Whether it's Binance or it's Michael Saylor. I hope it's not Michael Saylor.
Or DCG. A lot of people talking about DCG and Genesis also being insolvent.
Right. You know, somebody may have to sell. You know, somebody is probably in trouble out there because, you know, as my colleague just said, it just sits right below. It gets the resistance. It just sits there. Crypto sitting below resistance has never turned out well. Okay. But on this, you know, you have your 3 tops and you have your 3 attacks, you know, below this level of 1150. So the more times they bang below that and come back, especially if it's like climactic, like these 2 wicks. I mean, these were unbelievable, right? I mean, everybody got stopped out. People bought the dip and then they sat there with it and bought more. And then this wick stopped all these people out. Stopped out like 3 weeks worth of buying. And something similar could happen here. Now, again, you know, when you see stuff like this and you're looking for that final move, right? You just maybe go back and look at ETH monthly, right? I mean, ETH has been banging down here. The 9 bottom hasn't exactly worked, right? But it's a monthly chart. We still got some time. And this oscillator from DeMark is oversold. Going back to the 4-hour chart, just like my colleague said, you have a new low in price and a higher low in RSI. You've seen this before. You can get maybe a bounce off of this, right? But when they don't work, sometimes you get another lower low and another higher low in the momentum indicator, right? In other words, in order for that divergence to work, it's got to happen multiple times, which is why this idea of stopping people out, I mean, you know, just the disgust alone in certain sectors of equities. I mean, I was there in 2018 doing charts, and I said, you know what? This is going to 1500. That's what I said. I was like, I wrote a little article that said, yeah, this could go to 1500. And then I realized that I just did a Kramer and may have printed the low. Right. I was just like, well, wait, whoa. You know, and then I flipped it around and I watched it sit there in range. And we were looking at Wyckoff work and, you know, just a crypto war story. I was like, you know, this thing could go to like 12,000. It's like people wouldn't even you couldn't even talk to me. No one would talk to me. Right. So it's got to go. It's got to act in a way where people believe it can never go up again. And believe it or not, the CZ FUD, even if it turns out to be true, like when people say Binance has a problem, okay, that's one language or one style of language. But people are saying Binance is done and so is crypto. And when people say crypto is done and no one will ever believe in it, naturally, that would be the time to believe in it.
Yeah, that would be the indicators for the bottom, right? When everyone thinks that crypto is once again dead, so is Bitcoin. Nothing's gonna ever recover. That's kind of usually the foretelling sign that it's the bottom. Just like on the top, when everyone's talking about crypto, right? Your waiter at the restaurant is talking to you about crypto. You're like, wait a minute, that sounds like a top. But both of you guys have mentioned something interesting, right? You've mentioned that you're bottom hunting. CVO mentioned, having some type of recovery or kind of move upwards in 2023. What would be the for that, right? Like, I know CVO and Leading Crypto, they don't look at any news, they don't look at any fundamentals, they just look at charts. I know, Bill, you look at a lot of more Viordia stuff. What would be, I'm not trying to pressure you guys into a bottom price number, that's what I'm trying to ask, but like, what would be like that bottom that when you see it, would you just know, or would it be like a hindsight? Okay, yeah, that was the bottom. Or is there something you're looking for that's going to tell you guys, yeah, this is the bottom. It's time to start seeing it move back up.
All right.
So yeah, I'll go first on that one. So
Go ahead.
I was a huge 4-year cycle guy right back in the day, and I'm not saying that they are broken, but my biggest thing is that it's very, very much well, and and obviously it had some flaws going into the end of last year, right? For me, I was expecting for a way higher price action just based on the way I used to analyze things. It was a lot of news went into that, a lot of comparing previous markets and this and that. And then, once I kind of realized that, I was wrong in that analysis at the time, when we came down to 60K in December for Bitcoin, I was like, all right, I got to make a change, right? So this is just an idea I want to put out there because I think it's just good to have, different, thoughts and processes. But to me, I don't think that for at least, I'm going to go with Ethereum, right? So I think a lot of people talk on Bitcoin. I think that Ethereum for me is definitely just my cup of tea, I guess, compared. I don't know what it would mean for Bitcoin. Obviously, I would have to admit, they're not going to go down without each other, so it's like, is it 13K? Is it 10K? Is it 10K to me? And I think everybody can almost agree. It's one of those areas where either we're not going to get there or we're going to blow straight through it. Like it is the 100K, 1000%, it's that just perfect rounded area that everybody is expecting, anticipating. And, in the short term here, if we, Bill just mentioned 12,000, 13,000, I mentioned this last night in our member stream. It's like, say we get to something like that. And potentially, at least for the time being, that might, that's actually a really big target zone. 12 to 13K, believe it or not, 13,880 is a big level, 12,400, there's reasoning behind that. Not just like, oh, it's 10K, but how much of a difference is that from 10K? About 25%, give or take, depending on how you're, measuring it to the downside. That's just off the top of my head. I'm sure that's not accurate, but it's very similar to when 70,000 came around and most people were, some were going a 200K or whatever, but most, I think, genuinely probably would have sold at 100K, right? Or tried to. So you missed out, on so much because of a 20 to 30%, level or area that you got super greedy at. Potentially, I think, if we come down to areas like that, it could be a thing. But for me, for what I would say the bottom is more likely, I'm not going to go on the, the record and saying, that I'm trying to call it. But for me, my next area to DCA into this market is when Ethereum goes anywhere between 374 to 528. So with that being said,
374 and 528, you think that's where Ethereum is headed?
That's the devil's basement. Over time. And potentially maybe it doesn't get there, right? So maybe $1,000 is it. But really just listening in on what Bill just said too, it's like you're really not at the point where everybody is giving up. It's even if we go down to, we're at $1,100 ETH right now, down to $1,900 is what, another 15%, nothing crazy. Honestly, even Bitcoin to 13K is only 15%. That is nothing crazy. That's not a 50% drop. That's not, but that alone, those regions, that the level, the price action itself is enough to kind of frighten people out. But I still wouldn't think that that's enough to really, shake everybody out and everybody to say crypto is dead. The people who got in at the highs, I still think would hold, potentially offload just because maybe they have to at this point. Now it's Christmas time, it's tax time, and everybody, needs some of that money back. So, the fears are high. But yeah, I would say that there's potential to, get something like we discussed tonight where we, get a little move up in the short term, potentially down back to like $1,000, and then we get a really big move for months, right? Like maybe in the like middle of next year. And then everybody's in the camp that the bottom is in, and this and this and this. And then potentially, you get another, Coinbase shuts down or whatever the news that pops up out of nowhere that you just can't see, those black swans, whatever. The Fed, it raises interest rates or whatever it's going to end up being. And you just get this nuke straight down to those. I mean, you see Ethereum back at $300 to $500. I think that would be the crypto.
That would be wild, bro.
The crypto's dead level, in my opinion, man. And there's for me, there's
a lot of demand for TA at ETH 500. Let me tell you.
So let me there's I don't need to show it. I mean, I brought it on here a ton of times, but there's the 5-year average of price for Ethereum is $528. Oh, you got it pulled up, okay. And one thing that we talk on a lot, right, is high time frames. Let's see here. But yeah, right here, untapped yearly key level, $528, potentially down to 374, right? So that's there's a big area right here. And like I said, I don't think we're going to go there straight away, and probably not now, and maybe not ever, but that would be, for me, that would be, I think, the end all be all. Crypto's completely dead. Get out. The news at that point would have to be terrifying, for everything to come back to 2016 and 2018 levels or 2019 levels, wherever this, kind of lays in. But that's just an idea at the time. Once again, not going on record being like that'll be the bottom or whatever. I'm not going to be in the business of picking tops and bottoms going forward. So I just kind of trade with what I see. But for me, if I woke up to a $520, once again, I don't pay any attention to the news, so it wouldn't be worrisome. I would just be like, all right, there it is. Now it's, for me, that's the back up the truck spot.
Dude, that's wild.
Yeah.
I think that we could potentially see a price like that again after everything. It's like it's gonna be either it does go to zero, or it's gonna be making some life-changing money for some people.
Well, you got to remember the whole DeFi rally started at 300, right? I mean,
yeah, the 32 ETH was $300. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like I sat there on live streams on Sunday night, and I was like, ETH's too cheap. ETH's too cheap. This is like, pre-COVID 2020. There's no way it can stay down here with all the decentralized trading and ETH finally having a use case. So if it went back down there from a TA point of view, I don't know. Bitcoin likes to go all the way up and all the way down. They always say your altcoin can go down 99% and then it can go down another 99%. There's all that funny, not funny stuff. I would say if there was an event that you could tie these prices to, all Fed tightening cycles go too far. They just go too far, right?
Yeah.
And, what CVO is talking about is, ETH going farther than anyone thinks. Well, that's an extension of what's already happening in the market. The Fed goes too far. So what would be the signal? Well, is when you see something break, right? Like a car loans, right? Or a derivative in legacy, just like, the news in 2008 that started the whole chain reaction was a small, obscure bank in Asia writing down the assets that were a disaster to zero out of nowhere, right? It's not a boom, it's a crack. And when you see something happen in legacy where like, oh my God, the Fed broke the system, right? And then the Fed has to pivot. Now you'll probably have, like I said, the fear trade first. But once people realize that commodities, like this is my big call for next year, it's commodities, right? It's like grain and metals. And when grains and metals go up, ETH follows. So if you want to do it, yeah, we had a statistics guy once, work this up, and ETH has a good relationship with grains and metals. So, you can have ETH 300, you can have a legacy news item where everybody goes, oh my God, the Fed has to be done. Or you can have a takeoff on commodities based on either TA or geopolitics, right? I like the grains and metals things as kind of like a middle ground, because you can watch that chart. You can just watch those charts, right? I mean, PAX. Everybody made fun of me a month and a half ago when I said do PAX. They're like, oh, gold's boring. I'm like, well, okay, gold was boring, but was it better to be bored or caught in SBF's vortex to the downside? Right? So, if you just pull up a gold chart, yeah, I know it's in slow motion, but what would happen if it wasn't? This is another like 2023 theme, right? What would happen if, crypto went up with gold not doing much? What happens if gold goes up and then crypto follows? So those are just some 2023 themes to basically give you a long-winded answer to what would you look for at a bottom.
Yeah. So with that being said, do you guys foresee 2023 being a year of, the traditional system showing those cracks, right? The Federal Reserve over tightening. I know Gareth has kind of said it before, where there'd be kind of like a switch flipped, and then money just goes back to risk on assets, and start seeing some movement in the crypto space to the upside. Or do you guys think that 2023 is going to be more of what we've been seeing recently, right? Just sideways and downward pain, like just a slow bleed out?
I would say that we will probably get some exciting moves here shortly, and it potentially to the upside. I think one of the biggest things for me is, and whether it's hard to, it's almost contradicting to be like, yeah, but Ethereum could go down to 528, and then Bitcoin obviously would be.
We're
like,
going up, but first we're going to 500, baby.
I know, but that's where this is one of those things where you just have to manage what's in front of you, right? Like getting into these big picture ideas is just that. Like if I'm my idea at the moment is that you go up a little bit for ETH up to like 1250, 1300, and then we drop down to 1,000. We push up to 2,000-3,000 potentially, just given the idea. And then from there, is that where we go down to 500? So it's like anybody just waiting on 500. Imagine the FOMO that would ensue if that kind of price action took place. You'd end up buying back in at 2K, or even back into like 15, or whatever the case is. On maybe we get a multi-month rally, and realistically, that's all it is, just a bear market rally like we've seen in the past. But to me, no, I mean, with some of these high time frame things that I'm looking at, I would imagine that, especially if things play out in the next 2 to 3 weeks here, middle of January, where we're seeing these areas that we were just covering coming down to like potentially sub 1,000 for ETH, just briefly. I think that would be the recipe, man. Stop out everybody from the last 7 months and absolutely run it back. And I think that, that could be multi-months, potentially into the summertime, right? And then we go into a sell in May, walk away scenario once again, and see how things really transpire. But I think that 2023, just if it's just that, what my opinion would be, that's kind of what I'm anticipating or looking forward to. And then, of course, be paying attention to see if things get invalidated across the board. One of the big things, too, I always like to kind of bring up, and once again, comparing old cycles and this and that, like with Bitcoin, I just think that it's really rough. I used to do it a lot personally, and I just feel like there's not enough data there quite yet. And I think that everybody really hammers in these 4-year cycles. And I'm really starting to be under the impression that this is just the first 20-year cycle, right? So that's why we're getting all these changes. When was crypto born? Essentially at the beginning of the last housing market cycle, right? 2008 crash, 2009, crypto's born. So in my opinion, that's kind of something. I paid a lot of attention to the housing market. It's very interesting, the recipe that is at hand for the markets as a whole. And it's generally every 20 years, you get this black swan event. You get these 2 years of just complete choppy sideways market. You get inflation is at its highest. You get interest rates at the recipe is always there. And then the Q1 the Fed comes around, tightens up interest rates or whatever the case is, and then you get a run, right? So I mean, and I back tested that for like 300 years. It's like in the 60s, you had the Gulf War, 2 years of sideways, high interest rates, inflation. Everybody thought depression was coming. Fed pulls back Q1, rips for another like 4 or 5 years, right? In the 80s, you had, or 60s, I'm sorry, it was Cuban Missile Crisis. Then the 80s, you had the Gulf War, same deal, 2 years of sideways action. Inflation at the peak, you had high interest rates, super fearful. Everybody's afraid, panic selling, dropping out of, their homes and this and that, and fears that everything's going to crash. 5 more years of upside, give or take. Freaking 2000 comes around. 9/11 was our black swan event. 2-3 years go by. This is kind of where the alignment gets interesting too, because 2001 and 2002 was the .com era, the bubble pop, and I think that's where everybody kind of compares. It's kind of like they're comparing like 2000 and 2002 mixed with 2008. And in my opinion, I think we could be more so in a 2002 window where we potentially still have 5 or 7 years. Emphasis on 5, so 2027 really being the end of this like overall asset rally, right? So potentially a few more years across the board. Crypto, however, is just so new, it's so hard to like kind of keep that in the same ballpark. But the recipe's the same. 2001 came to 2 years of sideways action, interest rates, inflation. Everybody thought everything was going to go down. When did it really happen? 5 years later, 2008. And 20 years after 2001, what do we get? COVID. Where are we at now? 2 years later, where are we at? High inflation, high interest rates. Everyone's fearing a depression, and we're walking into Q1 of the 3rd year. So it'll be interesting to see what occurs over the next couple, months, and then obviously the year. But for me, all that aside, just looking at what I'm looking at, I would imagine we're going to get a little, push down here. stop everybody out, and potentially a really, really big rally, 40, 50, 60%, potentially out of Bitcoin and, over time, and Ethereum. And obviously the altcoins would probably make up for hundreds of percent, losses at this point. But once again, it may be something that's sell the rally type of thing. So we'll keep kind of going as we go.
Yeah, that's a really interesting theory of how all those dates aligned up with, kind of with the same methodology you're talking about, 2 years sideways and then 5, everybody thinks it's the end, and then 5 years later is when the actual crash starts coming. I mean, it's very interesting. I think we should probably talk about that on a What If Wednesday in bigger detail for sure. Bill, what are you thinking for 2023?
Okay, I want to try to find just the opposite of what everyone else thinks. People are like, okay, it's winter. And what happened last winter? Well, nothing, right? Crypto just died. But that's the way it felt this year, right? That's the way it felt this year. I mean, everything just died, and there were all of these, there were these spikes up and spikes down. And next year, I think that just gets bigger. I think CVO is right. You're going to have a painful wick on whatever final leg is happening here, whether that's Sailor or whoever. Right. Then when you get a rally, right, instead of a big rally being, ETH from, I don't know, 800 to 2000, the percentages just get bigger. Right. So if you go from 1,000 to 3,000, right, the only way to get ETH at 500 is to get everybody sucked in above 2,000.
Exactly.
Right. In other words, in order for it to go lower, it has to go higher. Right. And then the emotions. Like, I mean, again, just look at crypto Twitter. Look at the negativity that's out there, right? So the seeds are sown for something really big to happen. And again, it's got to be on the Fed going too far, right? It's just a question of, can you get the granular technical analysis? Like I do some of that with DeMarc. CVO has his work, right? Can you get the granular levels so that, you're going to have to counter trade the herd, not on a multi-day basis, but on a multi-week basis, right? You're going to have to find those extremes when everyone is negative. You're going to have to do the tough trade and step in there and sit there for a week while it trades like garbage, because it never trades good at a bottom and it never trades bad at a high. So your patience threshold next year, I think, is going to have to go from hours and days to weeks. Right. And if you can do that, ride the multi-week rally, not get caught at the top. Same thing on the downside. I mean, it could be 300 to 3,000 next year, as CVO said. It's the vomit comet.
The vomit comet.
The vomit comet. That's
Dude,
it.
that's awesome, man. I mean, it's very true. It's very true about trading the opposite. And, this next year is just one of these weird times where it's kind of like how you guys mentioned, right? There's pain, but there's not enough pain where people kind of like become numb to this lower level. And I think you guys are making good points that the only way they sucker people into lower prices is to, cause some type of panic. And to do that, you would first need to create some type of hype and FOMO, because there's already so much negativity that people are just like, okay, yeah, whatever, it's already negative. But if you give them a little bit of hope first and then you crush them again, then you get to that lower level. I think that's a really good way to see it. And yeah, I still think 2023 is going to be one of those sideways kind of, years, like how you guys have been mentioning, where we might see a rally of some kind, but it's a bear market rally. I don't think we're going to be seeing anything very bullish until 2024. I think the next Bitcoin halving is what's going to kick off, the 4-year cycle all over again. And until then, we're just going to have the bear market cycle, little rallies here and there. Yeah. In the meantime, just hot like it's hot, right?
I just keep your plate carrier handy, right? Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's a plate carrier. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The vomit comments.
I mean, right. I mean, you don't want to, I think the plate carrier is great, because as soon as I saw that, I was like, the catalyst for all these big swings could be geopolitical events.
Yeah.
You got to ask yourself. I mean, you can imagine a technical analyst could manage to see lower, stop everyone out, and go up. But after you've gone up, what creates 3,000 to 300? It's got to be something geopolitical, man.
Yeah, man.
To
The
get
geopolitical stuff is something we keep a close eye on. We don't talk about it too much on the channel anymore, just because we saw some negative feedback from the YouTube overlords. So we're working on going on our own website and streaming on over there, and then having those conversations there. Because yeah, the things geopolitically are heating up, and there's a bunch of interesting things that are happening, and a lot of times we get so stuck into what is crypto doing on the daily that we kind of forget that there's another part of the entire world, right? That crypto doesn't matter. There's a lot of bigger things happening that will throw crypto in sideways, and we need to prepare for those kind of things. And that's what the whole DCA project is about, right? It's bringing light to those things and helping people get the skills and resources for it. So we want to have our separate kind of thing where we can talk about those things and bring people on, no filter, no nothing, full on out conversation about what is happening and what we think is happening, what we need to prepare for. But yeah, 2023 is going to be an interesting year. We're all still going to be here creating content for you guys. If you guys haven't smashed the likes, I don't know what you guys are waiting for. If you're not following Bill on his new YouTube channel and on his Twitter, I don't know what you're waiting for. His links are down below. CVO and Leading Crypto, guys, they're on here since day one, right? They've been coming onto the channel since August of 2021. Right, when we first started this. So make sure you go follow them. Make sure you go get involved with them as well. Great content every single Thursday, every single Tuesday. I mean, Monday, I should say. I thought it was Tuesday for whatever reason. So make sure you guys go follow them. Any final words before we head out?
Enjoy your holiday. I know this sounds stupid, but if something weird happens in crypto, something weird's been happening all year, and I actually did this. I did it. I actually had somebody say, you know what, Bill, maybe time to turn off the computer this weekend. Enjoy your holiday. If there's a big wick down, leave in order or not. Right? Yep. Go into 2023 with your head as clear as you can, because 2022 has messed up everyone's head. Right? You can do TA, or you can read the news or not read the news. Your head cannot be messed up. Right? So get the rest, ignore the wick, right? If that's what works for you, so you can come into 2023 and be ready. Because, if you had said at this time last year, oh yeah, FTX and all these related entities will have blown up, you would have been like, dude, we can't have this guy on the show anymore. So what are those things for next year? And as you noted, Crypto Noble is my personal brand new YouTube channel. So please come visit.
Absolutely. You guys heard it here first. Go on over there, smash that subscribe button. Go make sure you guys are following up on everything Bill's doing over there. What about you, CVO? Final words?
Man, I just love coming on here. It's always a pleasure. Bill, always a pleasure to be with you as well. I see Magic in the comments area. I know he's coming on Thursday. It really is always just a true pleasure to kind of just bounce things back and forth with both you guys, Nick as well. And yeah, it's been an interesting year, and I think that next year it just is, every day just brings new opportunities. The information does change, so have an open mind to that. And I won't be ignoring the wick if we get it over the holiday break. But if I would agree though, like don't panic. I suppose when you come into these regions. So if we get it, maybe we don't. Maybe we just turn around from here and have a nice holiday rally and towards the end of the week or the end of the month here. But yeah, I think that crypto is obviously here to stay. I think that there's very technical reasons for everything. I hope that we kind of drew a decent picture for that, so that you can kind of come to your own conclusions. Of course, do your own research. If you implement news into your strategy, that's like I said, I don't personally, but it's probably better to have a good grasp on all that and just kind of have that like well-rounded figure, I guess, in the crypto space. But until next time, everybody, be sure to tune in, like I said, to Leading Crypto, 10 a.m. Eastern, Magic, Internet Money, myself, and Max. We go live every Monday through Friday. We've been covering these moves. We covered that FOMC meeting day. I say that like it was something, but it was just a technical pattern that we had, prepared for like basically a week and a half and 2 weeks, actually, from the beginning of December. So aside from that, yeah, be sure to hit the likes here and have a great holiday, everybody.
Dude, perfectly said. Guys, like like always, question everything, trust nothing. And until next time, even if it is 2023, hodl
Hodl like it's hot, baby.
Like it's hot.
The vomit comment.